Okay, people. um, yeah, nice to see the names streaming over there in the chat. Very sweet. Okay, we'll sit. Very gently put your heart into a kind of Dharma posture. Way in yoga, doing a pose, asana, very deliberate about how we get into that pose. Same thing with a kind of the Dharma pose of our heart. Just get lined up. The Dharma path is one of becoming progressively sensitized to goodness, being moved by it, being moved by your own goodness. And for whatever reason, we find ourselves in this this lineage of wisdom, love, and so many ways for human life to unfold, so many ways to suffer, and so few ways to be free. But wisdom and love, that actually is a path, some hope in wisdom and love. Our techniques, the ways we marshal attention, kind of efforts we make are infused, seasoned with the felt sense of presence, love. Meditative techniques can be a recapitulation of our anxiety, our vigilance, our self-correction. We let the mind marinate in images, signs of wisdom, love. And maybe then we use our attention in particular ways. Often useful to connect with the affective circuits of your body, the surges of feeling, of emotion, of impulse, motivation, the building blocks of the moving towards and moving away that characterizes so much of our life. equanimity with feeling. That's so intimately tied up with our freedom. It's feeling that tangles us up with phenomena, is the fuel of the push and pull of aversion, grasping. It's feeling that make experience feel dense, a burden on the heart. So we practice letting the winds of feeling blow through us, trusting that nothing will be blown over. And surges of feeling seem to beg us to think, to place the feeling in the context of what we want, what we don't want, to tell story about this moment, about this life. A very innocent impulse. But sometimes we experiment in meditation with not making anything mean anything. Not over interpreting phenomena, the push and pull. In other words, we start to trust awareness, trust the logic of the Dharma, our understanding comes less from seeking answers, more from surrendering, surrendering to not knowing, surrendering the stories we use to grapple with the intensity of the moment, all the ways we cope with feeling by thinking. We relax. There's faith, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Okay. So, wisdom. The Buddha says, just as the lion is the ruler of the jungle, wisdom rules over mindfulness, concentration, faith, energy. The last of the five faculties. So, wisdom, philosophy. That word breaks down as love of wisdom, and I'll say more about the Buddhist definition of it, but in one scientific team characterized it in this way as having 6 components. Nothing sacred about 6, could be 5 or 7, but they picked 6, and six facets. So wisdom as pro-social attitudes and behaviors, emotional homeostasis, self-understanding, value tolerance, dealing effectively with ambiguity, uncertainty, and social decision-making. So I offer that just as a kind of way, another lens from which to understand, okay, what is wisdom? Often practitioners ask Dharma teachers questions, yeah, and often boils down to something like, how do I be wise? And that's a question that can't really be answered by another person. Wisdom is, it can't be mimicked, and it's improvisational, and it emerges out of our own intuitive connection with ourself and our ability to make good predictions about happiness. Wisdom is about making good predictions about suffering and happiness for ourselves and for others. Given everything I know about me and you and everyone we know, how should we live? Given dukkha, anicca, anatta, how should we live? Given the vulnerability of our species to greed, to hatred, to delusion, to violence, given the vulnerability of our species to violence, how should we live? Philosophers sometimes distinguish knowledge that from knowledge how. So knowledge that the universe is 14 billion years old versus knowledge how to ride a bike. And Dharma, insight, wisdom is mostly about knowledge how to do what? Knowledge how not to suffer. I heard a story of this beloved old monk in Thailand who apparently saw a satellite in the sky and asked his younger, younger monastic to explain, like, what is that? What is going on there? And the younger monk had to explain the Earth's rotation. The Earth is round. All these things, and that was all news to this old monk. Yeah, news about the shape of the Earth and its movement. He didn't know any of that, but he knew how not to suffer, how not to cause suffering. So the journey of wisdom from a kind of latent potential, the dots inside us that haven't been connected, latent potential to insight, to embodiment and generalization. Generalization meaning wisdom that's operative in all spheres of our life is a tall order. Wisdom operative in all spheres of our life. Right? We all know there's zones, contexts, relationships, moments, particular currents of feeling, of thinking, where we become alienated from our wisdom. And we want to keep a kind of relationship with the failures of generalization. The way is our wisdom doesn't generalize to all contexts. And was talking with a friend just a couple of days ago, another long-time Dharma practitioner, and just having a very, very frank conversation for about the ways that our wisdom has been actualized, generalized, and the ways it's not. And it's inspiring to see the ways in which we have not generalized the wisdom to all corners of our life. It's actually motivating. So the process we start by thawing out the top layers of delusion, and that just takes time. It takes time. We just, I think, naturally are kind of confused about the nature of happiness, confused about what we actually want, confused about what a good life would be. And maybe we find ourselves getting what we want, but then it's not what we thought it was. And this kind of recognition, this cycle that getting is always different from wanting. And so wrong view feels almost visceral. It feels almost visceral, like it's in our tissues or something. And we have to thaw out. And in that process of thawing out, which might be months or years, there's a lot of kicking and screaming that happens. A lot of kicking and screaming as we're thawing out, as we're starting to replace the kind of boards on our boat, our raft, or whatever. We find we can't just replace all the boards of the boat that we carry on at once. It's a gradual path, and we can't even really pick up new ideas initially. We have to almost like make our body mind more porous so that new information can flow in. This is some of why we emphasize not knowing, emphasize surrender, emphasize putting down all the familiar reference points of liking and disliking, good, evil, us, them. We make the mind more porous, malleable, stable. We get settled, get happy enough. And usually we think we have to get wisdom so that we can be happy, and that's fair enough. But happiness often actually precedes insight. Happiness precedes insight. When we're suffering, we're just looking so desperately for ways out. It's hard to learn. It's hard to learn. We can do it, but it's harder to learn. Happiness, kind of positive mood, actually modulates our attention, our cognition, and broadens the view. And so whereas suffering pools the attention, narrows the view, makes resolution feel kind of urgent, happiness, sense of well-being, broadens the view. We become receptive to new information. And wisdom often feels like it arises almost like out of our peripheral vision, not out of our intent gaze. Ram Dass says the quieter you get, the more you can hear. And this is a function of samadhi. Quieter you get, the more you hear. And so the wisdom actually creates the sense that the Dharma is real. It's real. It's been realized. It becomes real. And our insight feels freeing, it feels like it resolves. It's like something consistent in our being all the way down, from conscious thought to subconscious competition. Something feels like something comes into true. And sometimes we think that's the end of the story, but most insight needs reinforcement. The light from the stars dims, where we need to consolidate and to re-practice, to rediscover. We need to be reminded of our wisdom. This is why we have Kalyana Mitta, spiritual friends. We're way more suggestible than we think. And it's really important to have this kind of steady inflow of goodness into our heart. We keep practicing to nurture, protect our wisdom. Joseph Goldstein just summed it up simply: when we practice, wisdom grows. When we don't, wisdom wanes. We have to keep suffering. We do keep suffering, and we keep a conscious relationship to our dukkha. This is what inspires us to grow and deepen. And we try acting from our wisdom. Try acting from our wisdom, even sometimes when we don't feel it. What would a person be like? Yeah, I knew that insight around self-kindness. I don't feel kind right now at all, but what would that person do now? If I were living from this insight, from this wisdom, from this self-kindness, how would I behave now? Let me do that. Let me try that on. So we prepare the ground, till the soil, our delusions, and habit-wise view. We get still, gets quiet, stay open to the peripheral vision. We consolidate and grow our insight. Wisdom, wisdom. So I offer this for your consideration. And yeah, it's sweet to be with you. Think about you wherever you are. Yeah. Okay. Well, I wish you all well, and I'll be back in a few weeks here. So if this was annoying, don't 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 come. I guess would be my wisdom. Anyway, I'm not sure on Gil's schedule. I think he's back. I hope he's back, but it's possible I'm confused. Anyway, it's always lovely to step in for him and feel connected to you all. And so it doesn't feel like um, uh, doesn't feel like a weird, awkward substitute teaching kind of gig. It's like, oh yeah, we're friends. So I love that. Okay, people. I wish you all well. Yeah.